Okay, let's start.
Start.
Okay, yeah. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. I'm Lina and Omar from GreenA Consultants. I hope all of you can hear us. Okay. Anyway, we are so glad to be here today. And I know that it has been a very tiring 24 hours event. So we have actually created something very simple and sweet for you to enjoy our insights and what you have actually learned from serving in this sustainability industry. So say hi to everyone, Omar.
Hi everyone. Yeah, let's start directly because we know everyone for 24 hours have been overwhelmed with a lot of knowledge from our colleagues and friends. So let's directly start.
Mm. So there has a lot of attention on net zero performance and also about how to reach there and how to achieve net zero. But we realize that the topic of sustaining and maintenance is something that has been overlooked. And this is something that we wish to actually share with everyone our insights and learning on how we can prepare the industry on maintaining net zero performance in the long run. So without further ado, let us walk you through what we've prepared for you. But let us quickly introduce GreenA consultants to everyone. GreenA Consultants is a sustainability consultancy firm established in 2009. So, we actually provide a full spectrum of sustainability solutions from green certifications all the way to strategic development and partnerships. Our mission is to actually build climate resilience for developing and developed countries. And we have projects, as you can see in this slide, we have projects all over the world. We are actually headquartered in Singapore with projects mainly in Asia and Africa. We have done projects from Singapore, Malaysia, all the way to far countries like Panama, Macedonia. And this is a snapshot of our achievements. We're actually zero energy and zero carbon ready already under the ILFI standard. We are also pursuing true certification under the Zero Waste for Our Office, where we aim to divert 90% of waste away from landfill. And as everyone knows, we are also part of advancing towards net zero collaborators under the World Green Building Council for Southeast Asia region, where we do webinar trainings and capacity buildings. So this is what we do, a snapshot. We don't only do green building certifications such as GreenA, LEED, WELL, EDGE. We also do areas such as value engineering, technical expertise. We also help to be resourceful to our clients in terms of what kind of fundings and grants or any loans that they wish to pursue. We'll be resourceful and direct them to the correct places and people. Strategic direction in terms of decarbonizing and also greenhouse gas protocols, and also evaluating different kinds of technologies and innovations should they be willing to pursue different kind of challenges under different kind of grants. So this is what we do, and if you have any questions, you can ask. You can pause to ask us anything. So this is our presentation that we are actually prepared for you today. Oh, we have a question. Hi, Kumar.
Yeah, I see the panel now. Yeah. Maybe he can write directly in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We will look at the questions later. Thank you very much. So this is a small snapshot of what we've prepared today. Sustaining net zero. We keep it very, very simple, okay? So the first one is to be true, which we'll talk about it later. Second one is to be an enabler. And the third one is to actually future-proof our buildings and our environment for the future climate scenarios. Okay, so under being true, what we really mean is to actually really understand the why and not to do things for the sake of doing. For example, just in some certifications, there is plenty of credits and under different credits and scoring to do. And sometimes people may just want to do for the sake of doing just to score the credit. But we always try to tell people the intent and the importance of why this credit is important. It's not just to fulfill a certification, but maybe, for example, planting trees is not just to fulfill the credit under Green Mark, but really to reduce urban heat island, to have visual greenery, and to provide thermal comfort. So I think what we are trying to say is that compliance is one thing, but really understanding the intention of a certain action is another.
Yes, this is one example from, I believe most standards now going for, or zero energy standards will ask us to do 30 or 20% reduction in energy performance compared to baseline. The rest we can start to offset either on-site renewables, off-site renewables, or to buy RECs, which is renewable energy certificates. This is like the mainstream way or the approach on how to achieve zero. But here a bit on being true, we want to highlight on the RECs, right? Buying renewable energy certificates. being part of being true is to investigate and look closer. The reason is recently some articles or most articles somehow not doubting but somehow questioning a lot about renewable energy certificates. So those carbon offsetting is going prime time, yes, but are they really ready? So our takeaway here is just for everyone to be true about it, you need to do three things to question the credibility of the certs that we are buying or the client is buying. Second thing is to question additionality. The reason is there are so many case studies that are really investigated and found out additionality can happen in those renewable energy certificates or paper certs. And the third thing for sure is double counting. So this is one example from one article. So it was found that in this example, a bird sanctuary in Pennsylvania. So the claim was 2,300 acres of oak forest, but when it was investigated, it was found that the forest is not reclaimed or anything. It was really there for almost a century, untouched in this location. So this just highlight the importance of doing due diligence in investigating and doing due diligence in finding where are we really investing this money when we are buying our renewable energy certificates. For sure, ideally we can on-site or off-site offset, but not everyone, especially with the current high-rise buildings, not everyone can really invest in renewable energy. So the alternative is to really investigate on how and why we are buying those renewable energy certs. Our second section here today is to be an enabler. So we have a framework under being an enabler.
So under being an enabler, right, we have actually segregated it into three different items. First is resourceful and basically resourcefulness lah. So in terms of not just in terms of knowledge and putting the correct resources for you, but also setting aside budgets in order for you to accomplish your actions that you want to reach net zero. I think that's very important because that's really where you put the money where the mouth is. Second one is infrastructure and tools. So having a very small example, for example, if let's say someone really wants to do good for the environment, so how can we actually make them recycle is to first really provide recycling bins for them and having a recycling collector. I think that's a very basic thing of really enabling them to provide like infrastructure and tools for them to do good lah and to go green. And the third one is trainings and stakeholder engagement. As a business sustainability analyst, increasingly there has been a lot of like attention towards trainings, education sessions, because people are increasingly realize the importance of having to educate not just their board members, but really everyone in the company. So we'll be happy to actually share more a little later on. So under resources, which is the first point we have mentioned, actually this is an example that we want to talk about GreenA, our efforts. So what we are doing in order for us to offset our unavoidable emissions is that we actually installed some solar panels in a part of Africa. So this solar panel, right, actually capture power to actually power batteries to power these electric motorcycles. So obviously then this helps to reduce the use of fossil fuels, diesel, and in a way this actually I honestly find it very meaningful because this helps to also provide sustainable jobs in these communities, and in a way this is something that is really scalable. They can do it anywhere then really, because we have already provided them like this small little budget and this resource, and then you can just take this and scale up no matter how you want it to be. So I think in terms of resources, not just money, but really putting that action and putting that time and effort to really think about how we can further value add sustainability, not just in terms of environment, but how can we activate the communities and people as well.
I believe, yeah, time, effort, and knowledge also are resources. When we say resources, not only money, right? But as consultants and as developers, we have the knowledge and we have the effort that we can do to really enable other communities to sustain their zero performance or zero performance in another country. So I believe this is a good model on how it can work. Second part of being an enabler also is through infrastructure and tools. The reason why this is important, because in most of our buildings also we can achieve zero for the main building, or we call it the base building, in which the developer later will have tenants, right? So we can get this zero performance for our client, but to sustain this performance, are the tenants really enabled to achieve zero? So in this example, we are showing one of our projects also. So we will find here, this is a mainstream practice where we have our BMS can control on and off, HUs, and control all our aircon system. We can measure this and we can go zero, no problem. But once tenants come and occupy those spaces, they will have their own systems, they will have their own energy performance, where most of the cases it will exceed our estimate and we might not be able to achieve zero. So how we do it is that in addition to this black solid line, which is like the mainstream practice, we have this additional connection also through our BMS. So we can check the consumption of our users. We can check their cooling also. And we can convert this into carbon credits. So basically our tenants or our future tenants, when they come in, they are consuming cooling from our base building, right? But at the end, are they really able or enabled to offset this consumption or to offset this cooling to go zero or no? So I believe through this simple connection, simple part of the design, or through really effort and being true about reaching zero, we can enable them through metering, through IoT, to convert this cooling energy into carbon and to give them also the chance to directly through their application or through their cloud or web portal to directly purchase their carbon or to directly offset their consumption. In addition, also when they monitor, they can be aware of their consumption, be able to reduce. So I believe this system will enable them first to reduce and second to be able to offset as well. The third part of being an enabler is through training, stakeholder engagement.
So to add on this point in terms of enabling, right? Another way to really enable is actually to have constant upgrading of skills, training and engagement. And whenever we talk about like stakeholder engagement, usually people think just the top tier people like investors, project consultants, project team, board members, and the higher upper management employees. But to be honest, like a lot of the information really needs to be implemented downwards, okay, and translated down to our janitors, our cleaners, and most importantly our facility managers, because they are the ones who are implementing and running the day-to-day.
They're the key player. They are the engine actually of this building.
Yeah, running the day-to-day operations of the building. So I think people are starting to realize that, and increasingly a lot of our committed clients are beginning to see the importance of these ongoing trainings and upskilling to make sure that this, as technology advances, right, people on the ground, meaning like the employees and the FM, are really still in touch and relevant in terms of their skill sets and their knowledge. So top-down commitment is really an important enabler, and we are always very encouraged and heartened to see when clients who are in the top tier push down top-down efforts to make sure that this really runs out, and making sure that education and training is really provided to their employees, the cleaners, the FM.
Touching on the FM here actually is important. I like the part you mentioned here, because usually in most of the building standards we have this term ongoing commissioning, right? So, but usually it's somehow overlooked because we just do the documentation. We give the documentation for our FM team. We achieve really net zero during the first year of operation, and then honestly, no one monitor, no one sustain this zero energy performance. So having a real or being true about ongoing commissioning and really doing the effort to engage our FM teams, our facility managers, is a huge step towards sustaining this performance through upcoming years.
Actually, there's a pain point also, right?
Yeah, because it also needs motivation, it needs education, it needs a lot of enabling, I would say, under this big umbrella of enabling.
Okay.
This is a good point about FM. Third one, again, from the FM point of view or from the operational point of view, is future-proofing our buildings. So under this or under our APN Asia Pacific network, we have already developed and issued our zero energy readiness framework. I think it's out there; everyone can reach it. So I would say, from our own point of view, we are really almost there to be ready to achieve net zero. Most efforts are there. We have the technology. We have so much knowledge also among our consultants and developers on how to reach net zero. So I would say we are really ready. We're almost there. But the question I want to raise is, are our net zero energy buildings ready for the future or no? So this question is important because if we look at the IPCC climate scenarios, so we would notice that there is an increase in carbon emissions under whatever scenario we are looking at. For sure, there will be an increase. In addition to that, there is an increase in climate uncertainties. I wouldn't say climate increase also, I wouldn't say increase in temperatures, but increase in uncertainties. So based on these statistics, have you ever wondered like how your building or how your design building on this day to day will perform under those future climate conditions. This is a very critical topic, and this is also not addressed by most energy simulation standards. Usually we simulate our building using our static weather file. I understand it's credible because it's based on very good statistics, but it's really not looking towards the future climate conditions. One of the research conducted was by Professor Drew Crowley. He really conducted many simulations under different climates. We are here just showing one sample from Singapore climate. So if we look at our cooling energy in this case, which is the blue bar, so we can notice that today we can really reach net zero because we have this maybe lower amount of cooling energy under each group represent a climate scenario. So if we take any of those samples, for example, this one, we know our cooling energy is here, so we can really reach zero here. We can offset our energy performance here. But how about upcoming scenarios? How about next 10 or 20 years? For sure, our cooling energy will increase. This is out of hand. This is because of the global changing climate. So if we achieve zero energy today, most likely we cannot achieve it in 10 years time or 20 years time. So the advice here or the takeaway here is when we are designing and simulating, we need also to account for those future climate conditions and future climate scenarios. And today there are a lot of ways to predict the future climate temperatures, humidities, and scenarios that we can plug into our simulation tools and get to those figures. And from here we can inform our design to perform better under future climate. The second part I would say also when we are future-proofing our buildings is resilience. We have been talking about resilience a lot, but we didn't really break down resilience into its fundamental components. So resilience meaning resistance, robustness, and recovery. What I mean here is that under also near future or foreseeable climate conditions, our buildings, if we forecast this very well, our buildings can still perform. But under maybe unforeseeable disruptions, there might happen failures. We might see our buildings going even below the critical thermal conditions, which term we call robustness. So our buildings not only need to be resistant to those conditions, but also need to be robust. In addition to robustness, also we're looking at recovery. We have to account in our designs for our buildings to be able to recover from those conditions and get back to the minimum thermal comfort conditions. So in this graph is very good because it's showing a resilient, robust, and a resistant building. So a resistant building only will be able to recover from those conditions and maintain again our thermal conditions. So in the future, if we account for those parameters, we really can maintain minimum thermal performance and minimum energy performance requirements in the future. But the main question here that I want to touch on is we're maintaining this minimum thermal comfort condition or minimum indoor environmental quality conditions in the future very well. But how about our occupants, right? This is a very good question. How about our occupants? How about our employees? How about people occupying the building in the future? Are they really still maintaining their wellness? Because then people are the main, or us, we are actually part of this future. We cannot just talking about buildings as a rigid thing, right? Yeah. We are the buildings, actually. We are part of this future. We are part of those buildings. So in addition to future-proofing buildings as a building, we also need to look at future-proofing buildings for people.
Because when we talk about future-proofing in terms of climate resilience, we're talking about how to make the building more energy efficient, to make it more climate resilient, to make it more resource efficient. There's like rainwater harvesting and everything. But the truth is, without people, what are buildings? So like we actually put up this like if you look at the difference between like a cave and a beautifully designed skyscraper that has rainwater harvesting, that has like high solar index glass, but and they have like full blown solar panels, but it's actually empty. But there's actually no difference if let's say no one is really occupying or using the spaces at all.
I've experienced this actually during COVID also. We have seen empty buildings, we have seen empty airports. So that's why we are really concerned about this issue of wellness.
Ghost towns.
Yeah.
And to also add on that point, right, some of these recent statistics is showing that despite their offices being open and welcoming people back to office, people actually do not want to go back to work in offices. And also in Singapore's context, these are recent news articles. Like some people will actually give up bigger bonuses from remote working. Of course, this is not a generalization. There's a small part of people that still want to go to office.
Noticeable, yeah.
For sure. So I think this kind of makes us reflect a little bit. It makes us reflect like, okay, so a lot of us, right, are in the beauty industry putting a lot of effort in terms of like creating green corners, having health and wellness programs, even having like, napping rooms, gym memberships, yoga classes, and like, all these fruits corners. But are we actually really making time for it? Do people really have like the capacity and making the time and the space to actually attend to go for gym memberships?
The mindset also.
So we know there's like, we're not sure, like
Yeah.
people really using this space or not. So I think one of the things that we also found out was that maybe it clearly is not showing lah. In 2022, right, statistics had actually shown that 52% of all workers are actually feeling burnt out, and of course up by 9% pre-COVID. And when it came to young people, right, one of the key issues was a lot about mental health and burnout. So I think this is something that we really need to pay attention to. And to actually conclude this section, right, I think what we are really trying to remind people is that to actually turn the attention more towards not just wellness for buildings, creating like green corners, green walls, napping rooms, but really like taking a step back to think about wellness within, and to be really aware of workplace burnout, and to remind people that wellness is a fundamental asset of our sustainability journey, right? Because like what is sustainability without us driving the industry as well?
What is even a net zero energy performing at net zero in the future without us being well there and being occupying there in our own wellness? So,
Yeah, we cannot be talking about like net zero for the
Cannot,
future
cannot.
without taking care of ourselves.
Cannot for sure.
Yeah, okay.
I
So
believe this concludes our session for today. I believe we are also on time. So thank you, everyone. That was GreenA Consultants with you. We'd like to thank you a lot for your attention and for having us in the event. Thank you, USGBC. Thank you, everyone.
thanks, Joy, for organizing, and
Thank you,
thank you,
Joy, for
World
sure.
GBC, and all our collaborators.
Thank you.